I know you've been here a little bit already. Suffice to say, we had a storybook ending, to a season that started out very promising and ended somewhat on a down note with the last 2 or 3 weeks of our regular season that I think maybe had some uncertainty surrounding it. Just a wonderful run during the playoffs. I think the Oklahoma series, to some degree, woke up a team that was maybe not ready to play their best basketball, and Oklahoma certainly doesn't take pride in losing to us, but they played so well and so hard that I forced our guys to wake up a little bit earlier. And you don't want to fall asleep in the playoffs because you could lose. But at that point, I thought our team responded, and we played our best basketball going forward. As an organization, I think we accomplished 2 other things this season that were of significance. Extending both Pau Gasol and Kobe Bryant pretty much ensures that our core group of players will be intact going forward. We will have our challenges during the off season, with our coach, still undecided, and several free agents, that played significant roles in this team. So we're most pleased to have just a wonderful season end the way it did. We're very comfortable with our core group going forward, yet we have some challenges during the off season.
Mitch, Bill just came in and said he's leaning towards retirement. That's sort of, the indication that we had had of the way the wind was blowing on this was probably the opposite. Did that surprise you? And how much did he talk to you about that?
Well, we've talked a little bit, during the season. In the last day or two, we've had a lot of exit meetings with players, and it comes up at varying levels of discussion. And my understanding is that, he was contemplating continuing or contemplating retirement, and that he would do what he always does, which is take a couple of weeks, or in this case, a week, maybe because the season went longer than it normally does, and let us know his decision. And I think he's still going to do that. I am aware that he used that phrase down here about 15, 20 minutes ago. But until he makes his mind up, there's really not much more for an organization to do. I've expressed to him personally, that I hope he returns. That was months ago. And I've said it to him right after the game in Game 7. And that's how I feel. So, he's got a process that he has to go through. He knows he's wanted here with this team. I think he's been reassured of that throughout the exit meetings with the players. He's got a couple of medical appointments in the next day or two. And hopefully, we get word sometime next week that he wants to continue to coach.
But is there a time frame that you need to know as an organization, what his decision is, and whether it's going forward or whether he decides to retire, just to help out you guys in your process?
Well, we don't need to know today or tomorrow. I don't think we need to know next week. Free agency begins on July 1st, so we'll be busy. If he needed more time, obviously he'd get more time. I think as an organization, you would like to know, who your coach is going to be. In this case, maybe some point mid to late July. But we don't have a timeline, and he's not indicated that he needed a timeline. He's indicated that he hopes to make his mind up next week. So, I don't anticipate, this something that drags into anything beyond the mid or the end of July.
Would you be surprised if he did retire?
If he didn't coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be. I would be very surprised.
Why?
Well, I think, as a coach, this is in your blood, this whole competitive player coaching kind of thing. I don't think, money's a factor, although it's to some degree always a factor. But for a coach that has his success, you know, not only coaching but as a player, in other words, experienced the best of the best with his championships, you know, it's really not something that you like to see come to an end. And I think he would agree that this team is in a position, you know, based on several factors, you know, injuries, some luck, you know, being able to sign some players this summer, would be in a position to contend for a championship next year, maybe the year or two after that. So most coaches, you know, revel in having a situation like that. He's left his mark. You know, he can continue to leave his mark. You know, my understanding is he loves living in Los Angeles. It's not like he needs to get back somewhere. His family's grown. You know, obviously he has a strong relationship with Jeannie Buss. I'd like to think he has a strong relationship with the Buss family and with myself. So I think all those things add up to, you know, a good situation for a coach to continue to coach. But Phil's always been a little different. He may take a different approach to this than even we might. So, you know, we'll wait to see what happens.
You don't necessarily sound convinced that, like, really, like a final decision has been made, or even that he is leaning that way.
I have no idea what he's leaning to do. I really don't. I know he told you guys a half an hour ago he was leaning towards not coming back. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
How has he phrased it with you? I mean, you as his boss need an answer on that. Has he expressed that, or?
You know, all I need to know is, you know, when he plans to make his mind up. We've had exit meetings with players, and the players have asked, and he's indicated to them, you know, some more strongly than others, you know, that maybe I'm leaning or I might not come back. So that's my first exposure. But you know, when a coach says that he needs a couple of weeks to make a decision, and he's coming to an end of a contract as a general manager, you know he might not come back anyway. So it's not like this is new news to me. I mean, his contract runs out in 7 days, whatever it is, June 30th. You know, he's had to go through a battery of medical tests at the end of every year. So it's not news to me that he might not.
As an organization, do you feel like there's anything more you could do to ensure that he comes back next year?
Probably not. I think he has all the information he needs to make that decision. And certainly if there was, you know, we kind of joked a little bit about, you know, this was hard to do, you know, physically for him, and it is. It's a gruel, and he indicated it was kind of hard for him to put his shoes on in the morning. And I said, well, if you retire or don't retire, you're still going to have to put your shoes on in the morning. And then he says, well, I can wear flip-flops. I said, well, you can wear flip-flops to coach the Lakers. So we've bended. You know, as you can see, we've addressed our dress code for the coach, and if he needed to wear flip-flops, he can wear flip-flops. What else we can do, I'm not sure.
Mitch, Kobe talked about how much the team is really built around and has adopted Phil's personality and his style and things like that. How much of your job as a team, in terms of building a team, is based around it's a team coached by Phil Jackson?
Well, you always take into consideration the style of basketball the team plays when you're trying to build a team. And you know, for years now, we've looked at this team as a team that runs a certain offense, and some players flourish more than others doing that offense. So that's a factor. The players that we have under contract right now, I don't think it really makes a difference what offense they run. You know, if there was another coach that ran a different offense, you know, you don't know if you'd have the same level of success, but they're adaptable. You know, I think Kobe, Pau, Lamar, Andrew, you know, it might be difficult. It'd be a long period of time where you have to learn to do something different. But it's not like we're stuck with players that can only play one way.
You said before that you don't think he's a prisoner of the game, in the sense that maybe, and you just said right now that he is a little different. I mean, would this fall into this category? I mean, do you think he would maybe leave wanting this to continue on this note?
Well, you know, I don't think he'd ever admit to being a prisoner of the game. Okay, but as I mentioned earlier, it's in his blood as a competitor, as a high school kid growing up, multi-sport, going to college, playing for the Knicks, getting into coaching, so it does get ingrained into who you are. And, maybe sometimes it starts to control your life, and maybe that's something he's not comfortable with. But he has the ability to take a step back and make decisions for the right reasons. A lot of people don't have that ability. They have to continue to work to provide for their family or their future. I don't think that's an issue with him.
To what degree, if any, does possible coaching vacancy affect the way you treat free agency?
To some degree. We do have a lot of roster spots that have to be filled. We have multiple free agents on our own team that we have to look at and make sure that they fit in to the style of play. But it looks like we'll have that answer, before July 1st.
You failed to mention Fisher in that lineup. Do you see him coming back next year?
Well, I didn't mention Fisher because he's not under contract.
Would you like to see him next year?
Yes. Absolutely.
When you talk about free agency and bringing guys in, given that you could have a coaching change, would you value continuity a little bit more in terms of maybe bringing back guys, trying to keep the rosters intact as possible, just so there's one less thing to deal with?
I'm not sure a coaching change would affect, who we try to bring back of our existing free agents. Certainly, just talking about Derek Fisher would not affect, our desire to bring Derek back as a starter. We do have several bench players that are going to be free agents. I don't think it would affect that, no.
Beyond the ability to wear flip-flops, does he know what the terms of the contract would be if he wants to come back?
I don't know. I think the first thing is getting, him to the point where he wants to come back, and then I think making a deal would be an easy part of the decision. I don't think with this organization and his ties to this organization and our respect for him, I can't see a circumstance where there's not a deal made. That's fair.
Mitch, it's been put out there that Phil might be asked to take a pay cut. I don't know, obviously, if you want to comment specifically on that, but do you have that indication, or do you think that's been a false projection?
Once again, the way I'm going to answer that question is with, his relationship with the primary decision makers in this organization. I don't think there'd be a problem getting a deal done.